Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ben, and in this episode of the Smoking Hot Confessions Barbecue Podcast, we're speaking with a woman who's led her competition barbecue team to become the KCBS International Brisket Team of the Year. Hey family, I hope you're well wherever you are and you got that thin blue smoke rolling. Today I've got a super special episode lined up for you. We've got our great friend of the show, Julianne Tyndall-Davies from Jagged Wood Smokers, the recently awarded KCBS Brisket Team of the Year. Now, before we get into that, I do have a couple of announcements that I need to run by you. The first is I need you to make sure you keep the dates of June 26 and 27 free because Smoking Hot Confessions is putting on Barbicon. It's the world's first online barbecue conference. It's a Saturday, Sunday, 2-day affair. Saturday is going to be all about cooking barbecue. So we're going to be jumping into the backyards of leading pitmasters all around the country, and they're going to be sharing with us how they like to go about cooking their various meats and proteins. And then Sunday is all about barbecue businesses. So for those of you who have a barbecue business or are looking at getting into a barbecue business, we're going to be jumping into the backyards of some really successful barbecue professionals out there who are going to share different tips and advice for you to help you with your business as well. So that's going to be something really cool. I'm really looking forward to that. Now, if you are at the beginning of your barbecue journey, we do have our beginner's guide to real barbecue available for you. That is on over at the Smoking Hot Confessions website. You'll be able to just have a bit of a click around the website, have a bit of a look at that, and that will pop up for you, and you can put your details in that and we'll shoot it straight out to your inbox. Next is the Smoking Hot Confessions barbecue community over on Facebook. You can head on over to there. That's a really cool place to be. It's an online group all about barbecue, and unlike a lot of other groups, we leave all the guff at the door. We're a really friendly, open, welcoming group of people, and we just want to hang out and talk about barbecue. So if that sounds like you, come along and join us. It's a really nice place to be. Now, if you're joining us live on YouTube this afternoon, make sure you give us a thumbs up, a subscribe, and hit that little notification bell. If you're watching the replays on Facebook, give us a like, a comment, and make sure you're following us as well. Over on IGTV, give us a little love heart and a follow. That would be really cool. And if you are listening to the episode on Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating and review because that tells Apple that you like the show, other people will like the show, and they should share it with them as well. Okay, so Jules is going to be in here in just a moment. So we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of different stuff. She is, of course, a wife, mum, nana, and grand champion pitmaster, which is really awesome. You could say that she's the Australia's answer to Tootsie, if you will. She's one half of the Jagged Wood-Fired Smoker Ovens business and pitmaster of the Smoking Hot Jagged Edge competition team, which, as I said at the top, recently took out the KCBS International Brisket Team of the Year Award, which is just huge. It's a phenomenal effort. Now, she has been on the show before. She was last on the show in episode 33. So if you're interested in getting the whole Jagged backstory, how Jules got into barbecue, head on all the way back to episode 33. I think this is 144 or something now. So there's been a lot that's happened in the meantime, but we're not going to go back into the backstory again today. So head back there, check that out, and catch up on what's going on. And today we're going to be talking about what's been happening lately. So I think that's about all we need out of me. Let's get Jules in here.
This is the internationally awarded Smoking Hot Confessions Barbecue Podcast with your host, Ben Arnott. How long's it been since your last confession?
Hey Jules, how are you today? It's great to have you back in the confessional.
I'm well, thanks, Ben, and good to be back. As you say, it's been some time.
It has, yeah. I sort of the time feels like it hasn't particularly been a long time, but then you count back through the episodes, you go, wow, that really was a while ago.
It was. There was no video then.
No, we have evolved and we have come a long way.
Yeah. We have, absolutely.
So tell me, what was the last thing that you barbecued?
The last thing I barbecued was chicken drummies. And when I tend to, I made them into lollipops. I tend to, when I cook, I try to use, if possible, every opportunity to practice for competition. So I think you've seen the efforts that we put into lollipop chicken when you're at Smoking in the Valley. And yeah, so chicken lollipops was the last I cooked.
Yeah, beautiful. I did see your process there. It's very thorough. You're very committed to getting that perfect lollipop.
Perfect bite, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I usually like to ask people what their favourite barbecue is, but I have a feeling that you might have actually put one in the background of the shot there. Tell us what we're looking at.
It is. This is our larger version of our Black Beauty. So this is our stretch, and I do like to use this the most. It's wood, so I love the flavours of wood, as most people do. It's easy to light up. You know, if I'm busy, I've got 30 minutes, I'll just stoke her up and go and do my prep, and she's pretty well ready by the time I am. Yeah, so the stretch and the Black Beauty would have to be my favourites. Yeah.
So good. Yeah. What sort of capacity have you got on the stretch there?
The stretchy's got 3 shelves. So as an example, you could probably fit 6 briskets in her. Yeah. So you've got room. I mean, that's a decent sized brisket. I mean, if you've trimmed them hard, like for comp, I could probably fit, oh gosh, I really trim hard, as most people do for comp. So you'd be fitting copious, more than enough.
Yeah, beautiful stuff there. So tell me, what's Jagged been up to recently?
Jagged's been really busy. As sad as COVID has been, it's really, I guess, lifted certain businesses to new heights. And it certainly has for Jagged. It's keeping Glenn on the go for sure. So yeah, we're getting out quite a few mainly the stretches and the Jaggeds are most popular. They go mostly to your family backyards and stuff like that. Although we have had a couple of fellows mounting them on their trailers for catering and stuff like that. So, but yeah, keeping busy. Yeah.
Yeah, I have actually seen one of your Black Beauties mounted on a porta potty trailer down in Tasmania, which is pretty wild. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely was. Yeah, he did a good job there.
Yeah. Now, I think last time we spoke, you were manufacturing the Black Beauty, and we just talked about the stretch. What other new models have you brought out since we last spoke?
Wow. So as you say, the stretch is coming into play for that more room for your pork ribs or your beef ribs and your briskets. But the baby, what we call our baby, is our gravity fed cabinets. Yeah, so charcoal gravity fed. Glenn's done an amazing job in tweaking the design and that sort of thing. So she's completely insulated. So there's the baby for the backyard or for the barbecue comps. I use that for barbecue comps, and more recently, the restaurants have been getting into the larger cabinets where you're fitting some 15 odd briskets in. So yeah, and of course I don't think we had our grill last time we spoke either. So we've really grown our product range over the last few years, which has been terrific. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of posts of those cabinets going into various different commercial operations. Can you tell us a bit of an idea, or give us a bit of an idea about like how they run, how efficient they are, and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, well, basically, they run with the charcoal in the chute, and as that charcoal burns, it drops in the chute. So you've got that continual burn, that continual consistent heat. Once you set your flue and your air valve, and she'll, like, as an example, depending on what size charcoal you use in the baby, she'll fit up to 5 to 8 kilos of charcoal, and she'll run easy 24 hours, depending on how hot you're burning. We've got Caveman Barbecue here. He uses the larger ones. and so he'll just top his up on a daily basis. So the baby, for example, she'll run for, as I said, 24 hours. The larger cabinet, once you get that first chimney of hot coals in, you pop your cold coals on top to fill, and she'll take the large cabinet takes about 10 to 15 kilos, again, depending on what charcoal you're using, what size. We always recommend just a bit smaller than a tennis ball size of charcoal. So we actually use the heat beads lump, and we break that down a little bit more, just so that it doesn't catch up at all, just to make sure that risk isn't there. And the large cabinet will run, 36 hours easy without being touched or anything, topped up. As I said, Caveman Barbecue, he runs 2 of the large cabinets here, and he says that he puts each morning, he runs it 5 days a week, 24 hours, and he'll come in the morning and he'll top up with 3 to 5 kilos every day, and that just keeps it going.
Wow, that is phenomenal.
Yeah, so they're so efficient, and being so well insulated, there's very little effort. Once you dial them in, it is a different design. It's a different way of smoking. I had a fellow call me yesterday. He was running his for the first time, and he's been running offsets. So it's a little bit different to run as opposed to your offsets, of course. So it takes not long. Once you get it, dialed in, you're laughing, absolutely laughing. Some choose to run a fan with it. We've used the Smart Fire on ours, depending on where you are. And then you can obviously walk away, change temps and all that sort of stuff at the same time. So pretty well set and forget. Yeah, which is wonderful, which is what a lot of people are looking for these days. The time is just so poor. People are looking for those that walk away. I've got things to do. I can go to the pub or whatever else have you and relax. If they've got the Smart Fire, they can monitor it as they go. Yeah, which is great. Up or down the temp. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to see the advantages for the commercial people out there with that.
Mm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, you did mention the grills there before as well. Those Asado grills, they are really interesting. Tell us about them.
Yeah, well, the Asado actually came about through a friend in the barbecue community, Craig, and he was looking for an Asado at home. So he came up one day with Glenn, and they worked together and basically just put it together, and with basically the materials that Glenn had around, and hence that's why it's got the saw blade as the winders. And I love the Asado because they're very, very easy to maintain or fluctuate your temperatures, raising that grill up and down. Like for instance, I consider a medium heat, probably half off the coals, and as that cooks and I want that little extra char, I just move it down as it's cooking. So they're a really good unit and tough as. No, Glenn doesn't build anything light.
No. I remember helping him load them all back up on the trailer at the end of Smoking in the Valley last year, 2019.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, he's made his life a little easier now. We have a horse float and a winch. So we basically, when comping, we just wheel them in and out, which is great. It saves his back. Yeah. Because most of, especially like the Black Beauty, she weighs 250 kilos. So with the bricks and in all that sort of stuff. So I think he's getting a little, should I say, old for lifting those things on his own, which he has done. He's 50 this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
Good on him. He looks younger than me.
I know. Don't worry. He knows it too.
Oh, very good. Now, we just sort of briefly sort of touched on last year, 2020. How did COVID affect Jagged?
Well, being in WA, it really didn't affect us personally that much. We're on 10 acres here, so we're pretty isolated anyway. At the time, actually, we were looking at moving back to Perth. So we were sort of in the midst of looking at places and those sorts of things. And then COVID came in and we thought, we're just going to stay here. Glenn's got his workshop here, and to try and integrate a workshop and a house or, split them up, it was just getting too hard in Perth. And we've got a lovely property here, so we definitely won't be moving. But as for it affecting us, it did slow getting materials in, but which has sort of pushed orders out now to, we're looking at 3 months average now for each order. Which people don't seem to mind, which is wonderful. I had a lady from Tasmania call me today and she placed an order, but when she heard it was 3 months, she sort of balked a little. But as I said to her, those that have ordered know that once they get that product, it's going to be, it's a quality product and well worth waiting for. Yeah. So COVID hasn't really affected us greatly. Other than, all my family's over east, so there was no going over there. I'm a Victorian girl by birth, so, yeah, it hasn't really affected us greatly, other than increasing sales, I must say, dramatically. Yeah.
Oh, yeah? That's awesome.
Yeah, which is wonderful. I mean, we were struggling before, I must say. Glenn often goes and, he drives trucks or does those sorts of things to, pop funds back into the business or keep going. But he has been out of the trucks now for probably about 6 months, which full time, which is great. So that kept him home. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think people's push for Australian made has really come to light with COVID. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's been a bit of a supply drop in terms of imported stuff. And so, which has been great for Aussie businesses such as yourselves, because it sort of refocuses the market back onto Australian made products.
Absolutely.
And having spent a bit of time around the Jagged, I can vouch for the fact that they're thick, they're sturdy, they're well built, they're certainly not going to blow over in the wind.
No, they're not one that's going to end up on the curb, put it that way. You'll be passing it down to the grandkids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that son and daughter that want to take over dad's pit or mum's pit.
Yeah. Now, speaking of mums, International Women's Day is just around the corner. So it was great to get you in for this episode, being one of the leading, actually, no, probably the leading female pitmaster in Australia. So let's have a quick bit of a chat about how you've seen the role of women in barbecue changing over the last few years.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I started in 2016, here in WA, of course, I think I was the only female then. But through that time, it's been really, really nice to see some ladies come in. Like we had the Smoke and Sheilas here in WA compete for a little while. They were a group of mums, lovely ladies, and they actually took a few walks themselves. So it's a bit disappointing that they've sort of dropped off a little bit, because they, could have taken a lot further. And who knows, they may come back in when their kids have grown a little. But to see the likes of, Linda Muir and, she came over to WA too for the Smoking in the Valley with hubby and their boy, and they did really well. So it was nice to sort of have another lady leading a team here. But I guess more women are joining their husbands. There's a lot more husband and wife teams, which is really, really awesome to see. The ladies may not lead. They may just, be the support for hubby. But I think the ladies, especially I see with the SCAs and all that sort of thing, the girls are really, really kicking butt. Really kicking butt. It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think with the SCA, there's more scope for creativity, and I think that the ladies are just a bit more creative than we gents are.
Yeah, think out the box just a little.
Yeah. There's certainly a whole lot of women sort of pioneering through the barbecue scene at the moment. You got Andrew from Queens of Q up in far north Queensland there, who actually owns a Barbecues Galore store as well. So she's got her own barbecue shop. She's heading up her team there.
That's right.
Moving down the coast, you got Shanks Sisters based out of Brisbane. Linda Moyer.
Shanks Sisters would have been one of the first. Yeah.
Yeah. Linda Moyer, Highland Q on the sunny coast. Linda Zammit, Pitts Perfect down near Sydney. I'm pointing over my shoulder because everyone knows that's where Sydney is. Yeah. And then of course we've got Saffron, who's an expat now living in America, who's just absolutely storming it over there as well.
Yes. Yeah, Saffron's amazing, doing all sorts of cooking methods and everything like that. Love it. Yeah. So no, it's really encouraging. I did a ladies barbecue course here specifically for ladies. And I think we had about 15 ladies for our first course, which was really, really encouraging. And, they just want to get in beside the hubbies. They don't want to have to wait for hubby to get home. They can start the pits and, they can work together. Absolutely.
It's another level that for barbecue to bring family together.
Absolutely. And that's what it's all about. That's exactly what it's all about. That's what I love.
Got a project you'd like to work on with the SHC team? Shoot Ben an email on ben@smokinghotconfessions.com and let's have a conversation.
Alrighty, now I do apologise. I did just cut you off there. You had made a beautiful point, and I pressed the button, and I didn't realise that you were still going. So I do apologise.
That's okay. No, it's just saying that barbecue and family and community is really what it's all about. And to see the husbands and wives getting together and have that hobby together, it's really I love seeing that. And that's why when I compete, I love to invite what we call here an apprentice pitmaster on my team. And I was saying to Glenn the other day, I think there's probably 3 competitions out of all that we've competed that we haven't had an apprentice pitmaster. So they've come in, they just want to get the feel of it. They're a little bit scared to go on their own. So, come on board, just see what we do. And that's encouraged, like Catherine from Bitch and Barbecue, she started, which I forgot to mention before, sorry. Her and her hubby went off and competed on their own, which is fantastic. And another, Lisa Robinson, she still comes and competes with us. She likes to stay in the background a little bit, but I mean that background help is enormous when it comes to turn-in time and getting things prepped for comp and stuff too. So sharing barbecue and especially competitions, because it's such a great atmosphere. And I love a challenge. And that's why I like to compete, especially with brisket. Brisket is obviously everyone's biggest challenge. And to fast pace people in the competition scene is, before this, I'd organised a competition prep 21 course, and I had a few teams come on, but everyone's saying, well, why are you doing a competition course? You're still competing. Well, after 5-6 years competing, I think it's time that as scary as it is, I might give them tips that they might kick my butt, but it forces me to up my game too. Yeah.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. It
Yeah,
grows the
so
whole scene. It raises the bar for everybody, and it forces
yeah,
evolution in the scene.
exactly.
Yeah.
So no.
Now, you did start mentioning brisket before, and you are, of course, the 2020 KCBS International Brisket Team of the Year. That has to put a giant smile on your face. So tell us about
Oh,
the 2020 comp season.
well, I think in the KCBS season here, I think we had 3 or 4 comps that proceeded and went forward. Because I think it's November to December. I'm not sure. So yeah, 3 or 4 comps over the year we had here, and brisket. I never even had my eyes on brisket. You know, brisket is everyone's goal, but we all know how hard that is to crack. So I was actually aiming for pork ribs, overall pork ribs. But as you mentioned, Paul King from King and His Q, he smashes pork ribs all the time, and they're looking at the leaderboard. There was no way I was even going to come close. I did come second after him in pork ribs, which is wonderful. Yes, overall. So to take brisket is just, I still can't fathom that. I really, really can't. That was a real shock. At the last barbecue events competition here, which is obviously what pushed me over into first place brisket overall. I took first place brisket there too. So that obviously pushed me up that leaderboard tremendously. So, but to compete with all these boys and take out brisket, that's just amazing. It really is amazing. It really is amazing. Yeah. So I'm super chuffed. And I mean, that was all in our own products, in our own baby. The baby worked the brisket for me. So it just sort of gives her a little bit of credibility as well as myself, I guess. Yeah.
Some street cred. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So was there one particular brisket that really stood out to you as being your best cook of the season?
As in branded brisket, or
no, just a brisket that you presented to the judges that you felt you really nailed. Like there was one. Like, do you have a favorite brisket from 2020?
It would have to be the last. It's funny when in competition, you sort of I've been working with the same rubs over this time for the last 2 years. And at Ryan's Quality Meats competition, I decided to change it up and use a completely different rub. And seriously, if you've got a good thing, don't change it. Don't change it. I think I came 6th overall, and that's not bad. But it just showed me, as I said, what I had was working. So then I went back to my original process for BEA and took first. So actually, to tell you the truth, I did a little bit different at the BEA. I used my original rub, but I layered another rub on top.
Okay.
So that obviously, pushed her over into the taste, and obviously texture is a huge thing with brisket, and that's the hardest thing to nail. But I think I've got a few little tips that may have helped with that. So yeah.
Very nice.
But I'd say
yeah.
the BEA. The BEA was definitely the best brisket. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. There are quite a few teams who will layer sort of 3, 4, 5, even different different layers of rub on there. It's really quite fascinating because when you speak to them, there's all different reasons for each one, and the biggest thing that keeps coming up is that they hit the palate at different times as the judges are biting through the meat and all that sort of stuff. So, and then as you said, then there's texture. So there's some rubs that will give you a smooth texture on the finished product, and other ones that will give you a more textured finish.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
right.
quite fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. And I think competitions push you to do things with your proteins that you obviously wouldn't do at home. Um, when I first started competing, I was adamant I wasn't going to inject. I wasn't going to do this. I wasn't going to do that. And seriously, you just got to do what the judges, you got to hit that flavor. I was listening to your podcast this morning. I'm sorry, I've got a mind blank.
With Big Willie.
Yes, from Badass Barbecue. And, you've just got that one bite and you've got to hit them hard, so to speak, with that flavor. But it's got to be the right flavor. Not if it's too salty. I was afraid, but my last brisket was actually too salty. Glenn and I both said it's too salty. It's too salty. But obviously it wasn't. That was our taste. But obviously the judges didn't agree with our opinion anyway. Thank God.
Now that's interesting that you bring that up because you like me, you have competed at the World's Barbecue Championships over in Houston, and the salt on the amount of salt that goes into the rubs on the briskets and things that the teams produce over there. That was what really kind of struck me, is that there's so much salt in all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, well, as Glenn and I, because obviously you taste before you turn in, and we both felt that it was too salty, but obviously you've got to get in. So we put the slices and the burn ends. I always do burn ends. Put them in and it paid. So yeah. So I'll go with that combo again. See if it hits the mark again.
I reckon it probably will. It sounds really good. So you've got Brisket Team of the Year, and you said that you came second for pork ribs for Team of the Year.
Yeah.
How do those accolades set you up or set Jagged up for 2021? What sort of opportunities are going to arise from that?
Well, I'm a bit slow, sadly, on the uptake. I did do some courses last year, but I'm really hoping to encourage people to get into competitions, just as others do, build that scene. So I really hope to have more comp prep courses this year, and I'd also like to get more ladies involved. So I really want to do more courses with ladies specifically, and then also open those courses up with the ladies to bring hubby along. You're the boss, but bring hubby. sort of, kind of.
So sort of teaching and empowering them at the same time.
Yeah, a little. That's right. I mean, you've got to be careful with competition and barbecue. No one knows everything. I don't know everything there is to know about brisket. So can always continually listening and learning. I've found the biggest thing with competition is get to know the judges. Talk to your judges. They will come through with comments, like, for instance, at the last one, I never tell people when they're talking to me, oh, that was mine, or I did this, or I did that. But one of them made a really good comment that sort of struck me. It was the first time they judged, and obviously the first entry is chicken. And they said they took that bite and it was hot. And they didn't expect, that really shocked them. They didn't expect that first taste or that first entry to be so hot. And that sort of put them off a little bit. So I thought, oh, okay, well, I do have a little bit, I didn't say this to them. I said, I thought to myself, I do have a little bit of spice in mine. Maybe if I cut that back, chicken does okay. I've won first in chicken before with the same combo that I've done, but maybe to get an overall taste for the judges, maybe I need to cut back on that heat a little bit. So, maybe in the next comp I'll do that. I'll soften the heat in the chicken because, a lot of these judges go to judge and they've not had breakfast. So to have that really spicy first bite can just be, whoa, a little bit too much. So I'll take that on board. But yeah, really get to know your judges. Don't tell them what you're doing, but just talk about, how did you feel, and just sort of gauge, get some little tips there now and then.
Yeah, that's a good bit of advice there. Yeah. Now you've mentioned your classes a couple of times, your ladies classes, your competition prep classes, but I know that you've been doing these Jagged Mega meetups. Tell us about that.
Well, the mega meetups, I think we had our first in 2017, or was it 16? Where basically we put it out to the local barbecue community. I mean, if anyone wants to fly in, they're more than welcome. But new, old, well achieved, it's open to anyone who loves barbecue. It's open to the family. As I said, we've got 10 acres here. We open up our property. People bring their vans, their tents, their swags. They just roll them out at the end of the night, which can sometimes be 3 a.m, in the shed. The kids come up with their bikes. It's a real just a real family get together with barbecue. And Glenn and I will cook. Like last time I put in 8 briskets, went in the night before, and then we've got the lamb. We always have a lamb on the spit. We normally put the pig in the spit and the lamb on the cross, because people love that visual anyway. And there's copious amounts of food. We start, when the kids come up at lunchtime on Saturday, because we can. We cook the kids wood-fired pizza for lunch, nice. And that just fills their bellies, and then they can run, and mum and dad are then just left to have a drink, have a chat, and then we basically just serve food from 3 o'clock in the afternoon right through to breakfast the next morning. So, and yeah, there's a small fee. It covers our meats, covers a cool room, toilets. So all the facilities are here. I think last time we had over 100 people. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, yeah. So it's great fun. Glenn and I run off our feet. We have a great team of people that contribute. Like Craig he'll do copious amounts of poppers. Catherine will do the smoked cheese. Lisa and Paul are always in the background cleaning up after us and making sure tables are ready for serving. So it's a real team effort. It's not about Jagged. It's about the community. It's about getting the family involved. And most people that come up, as I said, we've started off having 2 a year, but with all the events and everything that, have grown over the time, we've now gone to annual. So our next one will be June, August. So fire bans have been lifted, so we can light all the pits. We can light the bonfire. The kids get the marshmallows out. And, it's just a great weekend for everybody. And we're only an hour out of Perth. So it's a good place, just to come and relax and have a chat, get some tips if you want. Like sometimes outside of COVID, of course, sadly last time I couldn't, but when it comes to separating your brisket and your burn ends, your point, I'll invite someone who's never worked with a brisket before, come over here and give me a hand, and I'll show you how to do it. It's that sort of thing. Let's just openly share what we do and what we love. Yeah. So we love
beautiful.
Doing
that
it.
Sounds like a great weekend.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah.
So how is 2021 looking for you then? What competitions have you got lined up?
Well, our first is Chidlow, Spit in the Hills on the 1st and 2nd of May. So we've just registered for that one. And so that they've got an auxiliary with that one. So we're hoping Glenn usually does the auxiliary cuts for us. So we'll put on a whole hog. on the pit, and well, I concentrate more on the competition side, so to speak. Mind you, there's a pretty penny if you take the auxiliary out, so you've got $1,000 prize for that.
Very
So
nice.
you better not play around with it, I tell you.
Yeah. Now,
But no, he enjoys getting his hand in there.
does that mean he's going to have to build a new whole hog cooker and add it to the Jagged lineup?
I hope so. I have asked him for one. But no, we're lucky enough. A friend of ours, LV from Cuisine Co., he's now moved to Geraldton. We've had his whole hog pit stored here. He used to always lend it to us for the mega meetups, and we now store that here for him. So with his blessing, we'll probably use his. And he built that himself too. It's a great pit. It's huge. And so we'll probably use LV's pit for that, but I'm still waiting for mine. When Glenn gets a minute. Yeah.
And that pit of LV's, is that the one that I saw in 2018 with all like it's decorated with animal horns and all that sort of stuff?
Yes, that's right. That's his offset. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
It kind of looks like what Mad Max would use if Mad Max was into barbecue.
Yeah, it looks. Yeah, it's got as you say, it's got the horns and everything like that. So it's a great showpiece. And he works it beautifully. So he's working his offset up there in Geraldton. So when we can, he's also looking at a cabinet to make things a lot easier for himself. So yeah, but in the meantime, we'll use that. Yeah.
Great. Sounds amazing. And so that's Chidlow coming up.
Mhm. And as far as I know, BEA Barbecue, Jason and the boys team there were going to be having one earlier, but they've had to postpone that. And I think, from recollection, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's put his off to July. So there'll be one not long after. And of course, we're hoping that smoking in the valley will go ahead this year too with Steph and Jenna and the smoke and charity events. That's always a really, really good event to compete at, win or lose. We're serving our leftovers to the public, which is wonderful. $5 will basically get you a huge plate of what each team has cooked over the day and presented to judges. So, and then the public come in and all those funds go to Lifeline, which is awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of important work going on there that Stefan and yourself, you're talking your role down there, but I know that you do a lot in those charity competitions there as well. You guys do a lot of good work.
Thank you. No, charity is a huge thing, especially Lifeline. I mean, there's so many people, especially today, that don't have an ear, and to have Lifeline be there and save one, that's where our heart is anyway. Yeah.
You're listening to the internationally awarded Smoking Hot Confessions podcast with massive barbecue nerd Ben Arnott.
Alrighty, Jules. Now, I cannot have the 2020 Brisket Team of the Year on the show and not get schooled in brisket. So give us a bit of a lesson in your brisket prep and how you like to do it.
Okay. I think, as I said before, I've learned to trim hard. And from the beginning, as I said, I was determined not to inject. I wanted the meat to speak for itself. I wanted it to be natural flavors, all that sort of stuff. But over the years, I've learned that you've got to give the judges what they're looking for, and if you're going to take a walk at all. So the first thing I would suggest to people is, once again, listen. I mean, I've watched videos. I've actually, one of my biggest tips I've got from a YouTube video from teams over in America, and that has really paid off for us. I don't know if I want to share that one, but you know, I guess the first thing is to get your trim right. As I said, I always put in burnt ends, so separate your point and your flat to begin with and shape them both individually. I like to get my shape just that little bit bigger than the box because I know it's going to shrink in. You're going to lose so much volume there. So shape it to your box size at 9-inch size or a little bit bigger so that it's going to sit beautifully in your box. Now I don't leave any fat at all on my briskets. So I guess first and foremost is to get a quality brisket with a nice bit of marbling in it that's going to hold its own, and that should being looked after. You should do well with that, and I guess the thing is to play around with flavors. And once you hit that flavor mark, once you get that one call or two calls, stick with what is working. Don't swap and change too much, thinking, oh, I didn't get something in this competition, the judges didn't like it. Another thing I always do with whether it's brisket or any competition, I'll always look back on my past judges' scores. So, you know, if my flavor's down or my texture's down, I know to, you know, take a little bit more notice of that in the next competition. But briskets, it is a hard one. As we said before, layering can be a winner of your rubs. So I normally put a little bit of the salty flavor on the bottom with a little bit of not so much spice, but you know, natural flavors, and I have gone into injecting, of course. Yeah. So, and again, I've been using those same injections basically for the last 3 years. So, when you're on a good thing, stick to it.
Okay, so I've got a bit of a question about what you said about trimming all the fat off, and I'm assuming then that you're relying on the marbling. But why do you trim all the fat off? Because a lot of people, there's that old argument, fat side up or fat side down for a brisket, and your answer is no fat at all. So I'm just wondering what led you to that.
I guess talking to, like, I've had a chat to Lance Rosen over time, and he's been a really good, you know, he's more than happy to share tips and stuff like that. I got to that stage. I think for me it's cleaner, and I find you get more flavor into your rub. Sometimes if you do leave that little bit of fat, I have done it once before. I will present it fat side down so that the bark is more presentable on the top for the judges. But that's just what I choose to do, I guess. I could leave that 1/4 inch, but you know, at the end of the day, if you've got a good brisket, it'll work well, and it's the texture that you're looking for at the end of the day, fat or no fat. And so long as you can work your texture, no fat will work well for you in a well marbled brisket.
Yeah, right. Nice one. Okay, and my next question was to do with the broth bath. If you're sitting the slices in the broth bath, what happens to the bark?
You only fill the broth bath to you don't cover your top bark, what you're going to present. Yeah. So the broth bath sits probably halfway up the brisket. Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah. So you
All
don't
right.
ruin that at all.
Yeah. Alrighty. Okay. So that probably wraps that up. Now's probably a good time for us to start wrapping up the whole episode. So I'm going to throw the studio over to you. Give some shout outs, give some thanks, and tell everybody where they can track you all down on the internet.
Well, first and foremost, a huge thanks to Glenn. If it wasn't for him, he doesn't encourage me, but for supporting my efforts in competition, we probably wouldn't have gone as far as we did. And we make a great team when we work together, I must say. We just work really well together, side by side. And we've got some great people that consistently join us. We've got like Lisa and Paul Robinson, Catherine and James Ballenshaw. They are a constant support and encouragement. And, Mondo Community Warriors, Mondo Community Meats is where I always get all my meats from. So their produce is just top notch. And Vince always looks after us and others that purchase through him, of course. And Stefan from the charity, Smoke and Charity barbecue competitions. He's been, he's a constant encouragement and support with the comps and everything like that. And once again, I love working with him. And there's probably so many to thank, but and you guys know who you are, so a big thanks. It's nothing whether it's building smokers or competing, we really are nothing without the support of others. You can try and walk on your own, but it's not going to happen as gracefully, so to speak. And everyone can find us. We're Jagged Wood Fired, JAGRD. That's Julianne Glenn Richard Davies, for those who are wondering. Jagged Wood Fired on Insta, Facebook. We're on LinkedIn, and as Julianne Tyndall Davies, we're on Twitter. We're on all over the socials as much as we can be. As some
nice.
would probably say.
Yeah, you've got to have a good spread there of the different platforms.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alrighty, well look, I'm just going to say thanks for coming on board the show. It's a Sunday afternoon. I realise this is your relax and recreation time, so I appreciate you jumping on board to talk barbecue with me, and I wish you all the best of luck for 2021.
Sorry, Ben, can I just interrupt there for a minute? I must thank yourself because you, I think we met in Brisbane. I don't know if we met in Brisbane actually. In 16, 17, we met for the first time, or connected. And you've been there with myself and Jagged and Glenn all over that time, and to be a part of the Smoking Hot Confessions family is for us a huge blessing. Yeah,
thank you very much, and right back at you, because you and Glenn have always supported me as well. So I definitely appreciate that as well. Alrighty, there you have it, family. That was Jules from Jagged. How awesome is that? She's a mum, a nana, a wife, a grand champion winning brisket cook, and grand champion winning barbecue cook overall, and the 2020 KCBS Brisket Team of the Year. That is a phenomenal achievement, and we just found out, I didn't know, but second place pork ribs for International Team of the Year for pork ribs. So that is really cool. We got a whole bunch of great tips in there. We talked about the whole new range of different smokers they've got, which are really impressive, and the brisket tips at the end there was really helpful, and I want brisket right now. I'm going to go to my freezer and pull a bag out and start defrosting it, because it's made me very hungry. All right, so that's about all the time that we do have for today. So I'm going to start wrapping this up. Quick reminder, BarbieCon is coming out in June 26 and June 27. Keep those dates free. We're going to be bringing the best pitmasters and the best barbecue business owners into your living rooms. So I might have to put up a couple of videos or something just showing you how to get your phones and your TV, your phones and your computers to talk to your TV, because we want to just bring it all to your living room. We're going to make it all nice and easy for everybody, and we're going to have a great time together, and it's going to be something really special. There is that ebook available for you over on the SmokingHotConfessions.com website. It's completely free. Head on over there, pop your details into our pop-up window, and we'll send that out to you. The Smoking Hot Confessions barbecue community over on Facebook. Now, that's really important that you do become a part of that community, particularly at the moment, because unfortunately, my Smoking Hot Confessions page has become tangled up in this Facebook ban on news media. So it's the only way that I can talk to people at the moment is through the Facebook group there, Smoking Hot Confessions Barbecue Community. Everybody's welcome. All the guff's left at the door. We just hang out and talk about barbecue. It's a good time. And of course, if you are watching or listening to this, please make sure you do give us all the likes and the shares and the thumbs ups and the little hearts and the 5-star reviews and all that sort of stuff. It helps trip the algorithms and helps those different platforms to push our show out there to more people like yourselves and helps us grow the barbecue scene and, of course, the barbecue family. And that's a wrap for today. So until next time, take care of each other and keep on queuing.
Thanks for listening to the Smoking Hot Confessions podcast. Head on over to SmokingHotConfessions.com for recipes, tips, and Ben's own confessions.